Hello, heathens! I'm Megan Angus, and this is Spinning the Wheel podcast. In this weekly audio ritual, we explore the 8 seasons of the Witch's Wheel of the Year, and we discover how it is so much more than 8 Sabbats. We weirding witches time travel through holy days, festivals, and celestial events connecting our celebrations and magic to the past, present, and future. Our cackling fills the night as we take our turn gathering the wool, wielding the distaff, and spinning the wheel. What's up, party people? Come on, let's get this going. Snap to. No, I'm kidding. It's winter and everything is very sleepy and slow. Welcome back for another installation of Spinning the Wheel podcast with me. You're lucky, hopefully getting lucky, host, Megan Angus, here to, make a lot of innuendos, honestly. This is going to be a shorty podcast because you, fine listener, are receiving 2. That's right, 2 podcasts this week. So in this podcast, we are just going to go over the astrology of this lunar week with the briefest of mentions about our fixed stars. And that's it, because our other podcast that is uploading this week is the Imbolc class, wherein you will get all the other stuff. We'll talk about a lot of the holidays, not all of them, but a lot of the stuff, the big overview, etc., because Imbolc is coming up here in just a few days, February 1st, 2nd. So 2 for the price of none, because this is free, baby. It just costs your time and your patience, I guess. As usual, very briefly, thank you so much to my patrons who make all of this possible, / those are the people responsible for this. Thank you so much for your support. If you are thrilled and delighted by this podcast, you can always throw a tip in my tip jar. You can absolutely subscribe to my Patreon to support. Patronage starts at a whopping buckaroo, $1, $1 American US dollar, and goes up from there. The higher levels, you get access to the workbook and the calendar. At the even higher levels, you get access to me in a form, with seasonal readings, monthly readings, what have you. Thank you so much to the folks who subscribe and support. If financially supporting is not reasonable for you, and that is perfectly reasonable, leave a review, leave a rating, like, comment, and subscribe. All of that stuff. The algorithms are delighted with your interaction with the robots. Click things. It makes the numbers happy. That is also a very, very real form of support. Engagement is, I believe, what the kids call it. Engaging the content. It helps, and I'm very appreciative of it. All right, that's it. We just had our class, and we're rolling through the heart of winter, and that's what's up. It feels weird to not be like, I'm going to go off on all the stuff. And then I'm like, wait, I just did a couple days ago go off on all this stuff. You don't get it twice. Okay. All right, let's jump right in. Our lunar week, our seasonal whatnottery, where are we at? I guess I should actually say the thing that I say every week. I know what I'm doing. Look, don't listen to me like that, okay? I see your ears. I'm a professional. I know what I'm doing. This is Imbolc season, waxing moon in Taurus. Lunar week 50, right? Yeah, that sounds right. And we are starting this week with a waxing moon in Taurus. It will hit the exact halfway mark between the new moon and the full moon at 7:18 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, later in the day for everybody else around the planet. And it's at 8 degrees, between 8 and 9 degrees, depending on where you are on the planet, in Taurus. So, look at that. Now, what are we doing with our waxing half moons? Um, if this is your first time here, you haven't heard me go off on this spiel a little bit, but what are we doing with our waxing half moons? Well, our both of the half moons, the waxing half and the waning half, offer us an opportunity to review where we are in the process, the tiny process, the mid-sized process, the big giant process, and make some adjustments, make some recalibrate a little bit. I know I keep using that word a lot lately, but it really is appropriate to the work that we're doing on a variety of levels. The waxing half moon and the waning half moon, their job, you could say, is to point out what's not working or what could be working better. And then we have free will around that, right? So we can engage that work or not. We can consider it. We can whatever. We can do whatever we want to with that information. But that's where we are in the process. There's another metaphor that I utilize to describe the lunar process in total, and that's, the seed ultimately growing into a plant. And so this is the point in the process. The new moon is the seed. The waxing crescent is like that first little shoot that pops up from underneath the soil and it's like, I'm here. And then the next phase is the waxing half moon. And that's the point where this little sprout has to decide, am I going to fight gravity? Am I going to really push myself up and out of the soil and like do the damn thing or not? And sometimes it's okay at the waxing half to go, you know what? I don't know if this is actually the project. That's okay. But if we're in it, if we're in the project, if we're committed to it, or maybe it's a thing that we can't put down, that we have to see to some sort of a conclusion or some sort of, result, which is very real for a lot of the work that we do in our lives. Like we have to deal it. We have to get it done. This is a moment where we get an opportunity to see what's going wrong. And because it's a square, that information might arrive in a way that is abrupt or frightening or offensive or disruptive or confusing or a little destabilizing. And so, it's okay to like have that moment for yourself and be like, whoa, that came out of left field, or whoa, that was said in a way that I felt was kind of harsh. Yikes. But, know that these forces ultimately have, in theory anyways, a benevolent bend to them. And the universe isn't like trying to harsh your vibe. It's trying to harsh your vibe in the hopes that you will come into alignment with whatever it is that you're here to do and get done. Um, and that work can manifest in so many different ways, right? We're not looking for any kind of um, a universal response, right? Everybody's work is a different type of work, and everybody's going to approach that work in different ways. So it's a very subjective trip that we're on, the work that we're doing. But that's what's up with the waxing half, and um, and the waxing half in Taurus specifically, I'm just going to read straight from Moon Phase Astrology by Raven Caldera. Love this book. I don't agree with everything that this person has written in this book, but I like a lot of it. It's very cool. They say this: on the woodcutter's moon, that's the name that they give the waxing half in Taurus. Um, we think about those devil's bargains that we are forced into. Do we drive cars with low or no emissions? What if there's no way for us to afford such a thing? But the old clunker is necessary to get us to work. Do we buy organic, or does the extra $10 it costs to buy a bag of organic food instead of a bag of sprayed processed food means 2 more meals for our kids? Do we recycle? What if our town won't recycle half of our trash because the only trash company the town can afford without raising property taxes to levels we couldn't afford will just take certain items? How do I justify my decisions to all the people who have social or emotional power over me? So it's a time to honestly and painfully look at the compromises that we make and what those say about our priorities, our society, and our power or our lack of access to power. And all of that might feel like a bummer. That's fair. Um, and yet, it's really important work for us to do, to take a moment and think about, ugh, right? Like, this is how I wish it could be. And that's what we're talking about, right? Here it is. Here's the friction that the waxing half offers us. Is it's pointing out what's not working in our systems. It's not necessarily pointing to solutions. It's pointing to where there's cracks in the foundation, where there are, you know, hitches in the get along, right? And then we have free will. We get to decide what we're going to do about that stuff. When we talk about societal change, we talk about these big, massive things that have to happen. We all have a part to play in that. And I know that I've said this before, but I really want to stress that the work that is, being asked of us, the generations that are alive on earth right now, is work that no one person could ever get done in their lifetime, nor is it actually the responsibility of any one person. You can only do what you can do, but that's what you're supposed to be doing, is as much as you can do in whatever way that manifests for you in your unique individual life. And in theory, collectively, right? Because we are in the season of Aquarius right now. Collectively, if we all get together and do our little part, every single drop in the bucket, right, suddenly becomes an ocean. It suddenly becomes a sea change. Or not so suddenly. I shouldn't say it suddenly becomes a sea change. It doesn't. It incrementally becomes a vast movement of change over time. And it's when we're able to look back and go, wow, that was actually a monumental force. And I was a part of it. A very tiny part, but I was a part. So, what does that have to do with what we're doing this week with our astrology? Well, we get multiple opportunities to look at that with our other planetary stuff that's going on, and to decide, what do we want to do with this information? How are we going to process it? And in what ways do we want to try to work with it? Um, and is there anything else I want to say about that? No, I think that's everything that I want to say about that, because we're going to get into it more so with the astrology. Um, with our waxing half moon in Taurus, we are planting, we are transplanting, all of that kind of stuff for our plant friends, whatever makes sense. Again, wherever you are on the planet, if it's already warming up, that might make sense. If it's not so warm, maybe you're really just dealing with your winter crops. And for our lunar body work, we are awakening, activating, and adorning the ears, the neck, and the mouth, and the speech organs and the hearing organs are all of what's being supported through this work. Um, and as I say every week, I am not a doctor of the human corpus. Please check in with your trusted health advisor for whether or not this information is safe for you to work with. And even if it is, I always encourage working with the metaphor. So what are you listening to? What are you saying? That kind of stuff. Okay. So also on Saturday, the 28th, we have the sun in Aquarius square the North Node in Taurus at 8 degrees. So this is right on top of the moon, or the moon is right on top of this stuff, right? Really bringing this to the fore. And what does this transit get us? The obstacles between you and your goal are clearer now. Fantastic. Here's what's hard, because it's also a square, right? So we know square inherently friction of some kind. You might want to just make do when those problems make themselves apparent, or the hitches in the get along are like, here's where things are not working optimally. Your natural response might be, oh, I'll just make do, I'll figure it out, I'll work around it. And that is ultimately possibly not actually going to be sustainable. The reason why the problems are being shown to you is so that you can have an opportunity to adjust, take a couple steps back, work around, like figure it out, right? It's not a matter, I shouldn't say work around. It's not a matter of working around it. It's a matter of kind of pulling the car over for a moment and being like, nah, we need to untangle this and figure it out. We need to like get this smoothed out. And that might take a second. That might feel like it's like a deviation from the plan. It's the plan. It's part of the plan. Okay, that's our astrology and moon for that day. So moving on to Sunday the 29th, we have the sun in Aquarius trine Mars in Gemini at 9 degrees. Lovely. This is a day where it can feel very easy to be your authentic self, where you might be feeling very tapped in with who you are and what you're trying to get done. It's also a day that it's probably going to be easier to work by yourself on whatever it is that you're working on versus working in a group. And it's not that there's like tension necessarily, it's just way easier if you're able to focus on your own agenda and just kind of like please yourself with your work, rather than like thinking about pleasing the collective, or like pleasing the people specifically that are with you. But either way, it's just a day that it makes it a lot easier to kind of like tap into where you authentically are in your process. Also on this day, we have Mercury in Capricorn trine Uranus in Taurus at 14 degrees. So lots of Taurus vibes this week. And Mercury trine Uranus is a really dynamic transit. Some astrologers describe Uranus as the higher octave of Mercury. So it's like Mercury gets us so far, and then Uranus takes over with the work. And here these two are working in concert together. Um, and what I have in my notes is literally, we can make a better world. This is a day that is full of momentum. It's full of bright ideas. It's full of innovation. It's full of cutting edge ideas, electric conversations, um, um, innovative and exciting and inspiring information coming through on this day. Perfect, right? We have our half moon in Taurus that's like, hey, let's just sit with what's not working for a second. Let's just get real. Let me see my obstacles. And then we've got that, the sun square north node that's like, let me see my obstacles for what they are. Just lay that out all very plainly for myself. Let's go. And then boom, right the very next day is like, let me sit with myself and get my shit right. Let me just focus on my thing for a minute and listen to my own inner voice for a second. And then following that up with, now let me pull in inspiring information, inspiring conversations, information that feels electrifying and invigorating, and you start to get the bright ideas rolling and the momentum rolling. It's cool. It's very, very cool. Okay, moving to January 30th, the moon moves into Gemini. uh Tuesday, and then that's it. Tuesday the 31st, there's nothing. I got nothing for you. So then February the 1st, this is Imbolc. And you want to know about Imbolc, go watch the class. uh but this is really our moment to dive deep into the dream. Again, I really am loving the alignment of this year's astrology with this Sabbath season, because this is exactly the work that we're doing throughout Imbolc, is reconciling the energy from the old cycle, thinking about what we're going to keep that worked, but being very real with ourselves about what didn't work or what's not working anymore or what isn't going to be appropriate for the future, and then opening ourselves up to the broadest spectrum of possibilities, the wildest list of dreams and potentials and hopes. And then when we come around to spring in Ostara, we are going to start to pick from those lists and plant some seeds and see what we can grow in the next energy cycle. So February 1st is not only Imbolc, but that is our gibbous moon before the full moon. This will be our last lunar phase before the full moon. Um, and it is a waxing gibbous at 7:07 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 27 degrees, 28-ish degrees of Gemini. And here is a moment where we want to take a second and think about how we are communicating with people about our internal process. Do we need to be uh, communicating with people about our internal process? Is that appropriate for us? And one of the things that I love about the dates that we have this week, again, stuff always falls into alignment, um, is on, where is it? Show me. On February 6th, so a few days from now, but still kind of within the same week, February 6th to 8th, we have World Days Without Phone and Smartphone. It's a global, I don't know if you call it a festival, but it's a global observance. And so, we really are stepping into this moment of like, what are we doing with communication devices? So like, where is that at? And another way that I see this is in the sense of thinking about how inspiring information might have been a few days before with that Mercury Uranus transit, and then maybe coming back to traditional sources or your current sources and it not feeling very inspiring. And so maybe this is a moment of like really thinking to yourselves like, do I want to tap into these information sources still? Do they deserve my time and energy? Or do I need to edit where I'm getting my information from a little bit? And also, um, in my passion to create what I want in this world and to be the person that I want to be and to, um, make happen what I'm hoping will happen, am I coming across um, in a way that's counterproductive to my goal? Am I saying something in a way that actually I'm thwarting my own efforts? And that can mean all kinds of stuff, right? I don't know what's going on with you personally. Um, so, maybe you're being too soft with someone when you need to be more direct, or maybe you're being too direct with someone or with a group or whatever when a more nuanced approach might be more effective. I don't know. And maybe this doesn't even apply to you, but it's something to consider. And that's what this moon is encouraging us to do. Um, Anything else I want to say about that? No, I think that's everything. Okay. The other thing that's happening on this day is in our astrology, we have the sun in Aquarius sextile Chiron in Aries at 12 degrees. And anytime the sun and Chiron are hanging out, personal wound can come up. So think about that in regard to communication and what am I saying and what are people saying to me and where am I getting my information from and what's inspiring and what's not. Um, is it my wound that's speaking right now? Is it my past experiences that are taking over my communication style right now? But aside from that, with the sextile, there's a real emphasis on the healing that can be done with our Chiron work. And in particular, a message may come through from you to you about the painful experiences that you've had and how that makes you a very unique person and the unique healing that you can offer other people because of those experiences that you've had. Pretty cool. I love that. And that's literally everything that I have to say about it. We also have two fixed star heliacal risings on this day. We have the heliacal rising of Armas and the heliacal rising of Abali. Armas is in Capricorn. It's the shoulder. There's literally nothing else to say about it. Just like last week, like we're passing through a whole bunch of stars that I don't have a lot of myth for you. Although the other star is in Aquarius, Albali, and it is the luckiest of the swallowers. All right. Did you get that out of your system? Okay. Remember, Aquarius is pouring out, right? And so there are some stars in Aquarius that refer to the taking in of that energy. More information about that imagery in the Imbolc class. What is Aquarius pouring out? Inspiration, idea, potential, opportunity. And so this is a star that's like, if I'm open to receiving this information, I really might be expanding my opportunity right now. So think about that in the scope of all of this astrology that we're talking about as well. Also on this day, the moon moves into Cancer. Thursday, February 2nd, this is also Imbolc. And we have Venus in Pisces, sextile the North Node in Taurus at 8 degrees. And this is another opportunity of revealing your unique path to your future. It is a fantastic day to attract helpers, potentially from your social milieu. Um, you might have some conversations or some meetings or some relationship moments that feel very fated on this day. And maybe they don't feel fated, but it's an opportunity to call in the people that could be helping you get to where you want to go. Again, this is not a day of results, right? This is a day of starting to start, building the blueprint, deciding what all might we get done this year, that stuff. Friday, February 3rd, we have the sun in Aquarius square Uranus in Taurus at 15 degrees. What is tough about this day, it can feel very disruptive. It can feel like, man, I just want to be in my regular routine, and no. Interruptions to the regular routine, shakeups to the normal ways of doing things or talking about stuff or approaching things or thinking about things. But it is a fantastic day to break stuff down. And again, to focus on what is not working in lieu of innovation later. So, right, we're not, again, want to reemphasize this idea of what we're not necessarily looking for results in this moment. This is about calling out what isn't working. So, this is another day where it might feel disruptive initially, but ultimately the effect of it is, hey, bam, that part, there it is, found it. That's the thing that's not working right now. Cool. Let's tear that apart and rebuild it tomorrow or soon. The other thing I will say about this is because it's disruptive, because it's weird, leave 10 minutes early for work. There might be weird traffic stuff. Slow down, because when we're having a Sun square Uranus moment, there can be a tendency to not look where we are going and to get ahead of ourselves and literally trip over things and that kind of stuff. So just take a breath, slow down, wake up a half hour early, leave for work 10 minutes early, give yourself that extra little buffer of just who knows what could happen out there. Let me just make sure I've got time in case there's just some goofiness that I have to make some time for, make some room for. And then we are to February 4th, Saturday, February 4th. The moon moves into Leo, which is where we are going to have our full moon on February 5th. We'll talk about that next week. And for our astrology on this day, we have Venus in Pisces square Mars in Mars in Gemini at 11 degrees. What is this? This energy is very feisty. It's very sexy. There's a lot of friction. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So where can that be funky is in relationship with anybody that we are in relationship with. That can be family members, friends, lovers, domestic partners, whomst ever. If there's tension, and of course there's tension, we're humans. So whatever tensions are there are likely to rise to the surface. And if you're in a healthy relationship dynamic, cool, that's okay. Tensions have risen to the surface. Let's talk about it. Let's get it out into the air. Let's work on it, right? That's what we do in a healthy relationship. There is no such thing as perfect, right? We are giving everything its due and giving it a little bit of room. What's cute about it is cute, friction, tension. We like that, right? So if we are in a sexy situation with somebody or a loving situation with somebody, it could be a very frisky and cute day. If we are attracted to somebody, we might be very attracted to this person on this day. You got to love it. All right, that's it. That's the entire week. That is everything I got for you. I'm going to upload this, and then right behind it, I am going to upload the Imbolc podcast, which might take, like, I don't know, a little while because it takes some time for the videos to upload sometimes. So it might be an hour or so from now. If you're listening to this right at the moment that I put it out, it might still be a couple of hours before the video is up, but it's coming today, or soon, today being Saturday. All right, my loves, that's everything. Heathens, keep heathening. What can I say? Keep rocking in the free world. Blessed be.